The alien academy floated silently in the darkness of space, a massive structure of shining metals and glowing energy fields. Its towers twisted like the spirals of galaxies, and windows glimmered with lights that hinted at knowledge far beyond human understanding. Humans had arrived only recently, their small ships carefully docked in the academy's docking bay. Among all the species present, humans were considered the youngest, the most inexperienced and, according to most aliens, the least likely to succeed. Sylar, a tall alien with translucent skin that shimmered like liquid crystal, walked along the polished corridors. His eyes reflected centuries of knowledge and pride. He was known throughout the galaxy for his puzzles and challenges, each designed to push even the brightest minds to their limits. And today he had prepared what he considered the ultimate test, a puzzle so complex that he believed no one, not even the Academy's top students, could solve it. The humans, 3 in total, waited nervously in the central chamber of the Academy. They were not tall or strong, and their appearance seemed fragile compared to the towering, multi-limbed aliens around them. Yet there was something different about humans, something that many of the aliens overlooked. They had a strange mix of curiosity and fearlessness. While other species studied only what was predictable, humans seemed drawn to the unknown, eager to explore it with their own hands, their own minds. Sylar entered the chamber, carrying a glowing crystalline cube in his hands. The cube was small enough to hold, but its surface shimmered with energy patterns that shifted constantly, like a miniature galaxy trapped inside crystal. Each side contained pathways and nodes that moved unpredictably. Every alien in the room recognized its complexity. The cube was designed not just as a puzzle, but as a living test of intelligence. He placed the cube on a pedestal in the center of the room and looked down at the humans. "This puzzle," he said, his voice calm but firm, "has never been solved. No one has found its complete pattern, and no solution has been discovered in all recorded history. Today you will attempt the impossible. You may try, but you will fail." The humans exchanged glances. One of them, a young woman named Mara, smiled faintly. She had always believed that challenges were opportunities, not punishments. Another, Ryan, looked at the cube with quiet fascination, turning it over in his hands, though it had already been placed on the pedestal. The third, Jace, leaned slightly forward, curiosity shining in his eyes. Without hesitation, the humans approached the cube. Unlike the aliens, who tried to memorize its patterns and calculate every move with precise logic, the humans studied it in a different way. They touched the cube, observed how it reacted, and discussed what they noticed among themselves. They experimented, sometimes making choices that seemed illogical, yet were based on instinct and observation. Sylar watched closely, his translucent skin flickering slightly in irritation. To him, the humans' method seemed chaotic. "They are wasting time," he muttered to himself. "They do not understand the rules. They cannot solve this." The other alien students nodded in agreement, their multiple eyes fixed on the humans. They had spent centuries studying logic puzzles and complex algorithms, and they knew exactly how to approach a challenge. Humans, they thought, were primitive in comparison, but the humans were not deterred. Mara noticed a faint rhythm in the energy shifts of the cube. She pointed it out to Ryan and Jace, who began to see the subtle patterns that no alien eye had noticed. The cube's energy responded in small ways to the humans' touches, almost as if it recognized their curiosity and creativity. Hours passed. The humans made mistakes, reset the cube countless times, and sometimes argued about the best approach. But each mistake taught them something new. They began to see connections between seemingly random shifts, discovering tiny rules hidden within the complexity. The aliens, confident in their superiority, tried to intervene, suggesting proper methods, but the humans ignored them. They had learned that the puzzle did not obey the rules of pure logic. It required something more. Sylar grew impatient. He had prepared a final challenge, a shift in the cube's structure that would, he believed, make it impossible for the humans to continue. When the change occurred, pathways folded in on themselves, nodes multiplied, and energy flows became chaotic. The room filled with whispers and gasps from the alien students. Most of them gave up immediately, shaking their heads in disappointment. But the humans did not. Instead of panicking, they adapted. Mara suggested a new approach, not trying to control the cube, but to understand how it moved naturally. Ryan noticed a recurring cycle in the energy, and Jace found a way to connect two patterns that seemed unrelated. Slowly, method by method, they began to make progress. Each tiny success built upon the last like stepping stones across a river too wide to jump. Siler's frustration grew into confusion. He could not understand how humans, with their limited knowledge and primitive methods, were making progress where the most advanced aliens had failed. He leaned closer, his eyes narrowing as the cube pulsed in response to the humans' combined actions. It was almost as if the puzzle itself was alive, reacting to their creativity rather than their intelligence. Time passed differently in the chamber. Hours became minutes, minutes became moments, yet the humans continued, persistent and unafraid of failure. Other aliens began to murmur, watching in disbelief as the cube responded to human intuition and teamwork. For the first time in his long life, Xylar felt a flicker of doubt. Perhaps intelligence was not only about calculation and memory. Perhaps there was something else, something the humans had that even the greatest alien minds had overlooked. As the humans worked, the cube began to glow brighter, energy lines connecting in ways that were beautiful and intricate. No alien had ever seen the puzzle react like this. The humans were not trying to dominate the cube with logic. They were communicating with it through exploration, imagination, and collaboration. They were bending the rules, not breaking them, and the puzzle responded in kind. Finally, after what seemed like endless cycles of trial and error, the humans paused. They stepped back and looked at the cube, which now shimmered with a complex harmony of patterns. Mara smiled. "I think we're getting close," she said softly. Ryan nodded, his eyes reflecting the glowing light, and Jace grinned. They were not afraid, even though the challenge had seemed impossible. Xylar watched in stunned silence. He had expected failure, humiliation, and proof of alien superiority. Instead, he saw humans moving in ways he could not predict, succeeding in ways he did not understand. His pride, built over centuries, felt both fragile and heavy. He realized that the puzzle was not too difficult. The mistake had been his assumptions. He had underestimated humans. The chamber fell silent as the other aliens stared at the glowing cube, the humans, and Xylar himself. Something had changed. The humans had proven that intelligence was not only about knowledge or experience, it was about curiosity, creativity, and the courage to embrace the unknown. For the first time, Xylar felt a flicker of respect, mixed with a sense of humility. He knew that what was about to happen next would surprise everyone, including himself. The humans had only begun to explore the puzzle's true potential, and the consequences of their success were about to unfold. And in that moment, Xylar understood the first of many lessons. Sometimes the impossible is only impossible until someone refuses to accept it. Humans, small and inexperienced in the eyes of the galaxy, had already started to rewrite what it meant to be intelligent. The glowing cube sat in the center of the chamber, humming softly, its energy lines shifting like waves in a cosmic ocean. Xylar could feel a strange tension in the room, something he had never experienced in all his centuries of teaching. The humans stood around the cube, calm but focused, their eyes wide with curiosity and determination. They had already achieved what he thought impossible, but the puzzle was far from finished. The alien students whispered among themselves, unable to comprehend what was happening. Many had given up after the first hour, convinced that the cube would never respond to any human attempt. Now they watched in disbelief as the cube reacted to every subtle touch, every small idea, every shared observation from the humans. Xylar's pride wrestled with his astonishment. How could creatures so inexperienced, so young, understand what his most brilliant students could not? Mara reached out and touched the cube again. This time she didn't try to force it into a specific pattern. She let her hand hover over it, feeling the rhythm of its energy. She noticed that each pathway seemed to follow a pulse, almost like a heartbeat. She spoke softly to her companions. "It's not about controlling it. It's about understanding its rhythm. Watch the pulses, they tell a story." Ryan leaned closer and followed her instructions. He traced the energy lines with his fingers, observing how they shifted and intertwined. "It's like a dance," he said quietly. "We're not solving it with logic alone. We're moving with it." Jace nodded, his usual grin replaced with concentration. "Then let's follow the steps," he said. "If it's a dance, we can learn the steps together." Xylar's eyes widened. He had never heard such language from a student. Dance story. Intelligence in his mind was calculation, precision, and rules. Yet the humans approached the puzzle with a method he could not define. They were blending creativity with logic, imagination with observation, teamwork with intuition. The cube responded in ways he had never predicted. Hours passed. Time became almost meaningless in the chamber, as humans explored every possibility. When the cube shifted unexpectedly instead of panicking, the humans laughed softly or murmured ideas to each other. They did not see failure as an endpoint, but as a step toward understanding. Every failed attempt was analyzed, shared, and used to guide the next move. Their cooperation was seamless, almost instinctive. Xylar tried to interfere, offering hints to the humans, but they politely ignored him. They did not need his knowledge. They had their own approach, one that he could not anticipate or control. Each time he offered advice, the cube subtly resisted, as if reminding him that this was not a game of authority or domination. Other alien students began to feel unease. Many had believed that intelligence could be measured by how quickly one could master a puzzle. Now they watched the humans not only master the puzzle but elevate it to something new. The cube, once an unbreakable challenge, now pulsed with harmony, its energy responding to ideas that had never been imagined. Mara noticed a sequence of patterns that resembled a spiral. She pointed it out to Ryan and Jace. The spiral repeats, but not exactly the same each time. Each cycle adds something new. We have to anticipate the changes, not control them. Ryan nodded, eyes bright with understanding. So we flow with it. Let the cube teach us as much as we guide it. The cube began to glow brighter, almost blinding in its intensity. Energy lines shifted, forming shapes that seemed alive. Other aliens gasped as the cube displayed intricate structures that no algorithm could have predicted. The humans, however, were calm. They had entered a state of focus and harmony, thinking as one, yet allowing each other space to explore individual insights. Jace touched a node on the cube, and the energy rippled outward. He laughed softly. It's like it's listening to us, not just reacting. Every choice we make matters, Mara smiled, and every choice they expected us to make is irrelevant. We're not doing this their way. We're doing it our way, Ryan added. The cube isn't impossible. It's alive in a way. We just had to understand it differently. Xylar felt a mixture of awe and humility. He had always believed intelligence was measured by how well one followed rules, by how fast one could compute, by how perfectly one could predict. But these humans were teaching him a new truth. Intelligence could also be creativity, intuition, and adaptability. It could be teamwork and empathy, the willingness to learn from mistakes and explore the unknown. The cube's final challenge approached. A massive energy shift began, rearranging pathways, splitting nodes, and creating patterns that seemed random. Alien students gasped and hesitated, paralyzed by fear of failure. Xylar braced himself, expecting the humans to stumble and be defeated. But they did not falter. Mara, Ryan, and Jace moved together, their hands tracing the energy lines, their minds working in unison. They did not try to control the cube. They listened to it. They moved with it. They responded to its pulses, learned its rhythm, and let their combined creativity guide the way. Slowly, method by method, step by step, they adapted to the changes. The cube began to respond in kind. Energy lines connected seamlessly, forming patterns of unimaginable beauty. Spirals intertwined with waves, nodes connected in perfect symmetry, and a soft hum filled the chamber like music. The puzzle had transformed, becoming not just a test but a collaboration between humans and the cube itself. Xylar could hardly breathe. He realized that the humans had done something no alien had ever done. They had unlocked a level of intelligence that was not just about computation, but about understanding life in a new way. His pride, so carefully built over centuries, melted into respect. He had underestimated humans and in doing so had learned his first lesson. Brilliance could come in forms he had never imagined. Other aliens watched in stunned silence. They had come to see humans fail, to laugh at their weakness, to reinforce their own superiority. Instead, they were witnessing something extraordinary. The humans, small and inexperienced by their standards, had not only survived the puzzle, they had elevated it. Mara, Ryan, and Jace stepped back, looking at the cube in awe. It no longer seemed like a challenge. It seemed alive, a partner in a conversation that only humans had begun to understand. "We did it," Mara whispered, her voice filled with wonder. We didn't just solve it, we connected with it, Ryan smiled. We never tried to be better than it. We tried to understand it. Jace nodded, eyes shining. And that made all the difference. Xylar approached the humans slowly. He bowed slightly, an act of respect rare among his species. You have shown me something I never knew, he said. I have taught countless students, challenged countless minds, and yet, I did not understand the simplest truth. Intelligence is not only in knowledge or calculation. It is in curiosity, creativity, and courage. You have reminded me of what I have forgotten. The humans nodded, unsure what to say. They did not need to speak. Their actions had already spoken louder than any words. The chamber fell silent. The cube glowed softly, no longer chaotic, no longer a challenge in the traditional sense. It pulsed gently, a reflection of the human's persistence, creativity, and harmony. Xylar realized that he would never view intelligence in the same way again. Humans, small and underestimated, had shown that even the impossible could be achieved with curiosity, collaboration, and the courage to think differently. For the rest of the day, the humans were celebrated quietly by the few who had observed closely. Xylar, once a proud and unyielding teacher, walked alone to the edge of the observation balcony. He looked at the stars, feeling humbled and inspired. He had entered the chamber expecting to teach. Instead, he had learned. He had learned that the galaxy was larger, more complex and more wondrous than he had ever imagined. And in that quiet moment, he smiled. The humans had not only solved a puzzle, they had opened the door to a new way of thinking, one that even the most advanced species had overlooked. They had shown that brilliance was not only in knowledge, but in creativity, resilience, and the ability to embrace the unknown. Xylar knew that this was only the beginning. Humans would go on to surprise the galaxy again and again, not because they were the strongest, fastest, or most experienced, but because they were uniquely human, and in that uniqueness lay a power no puzzle, no challenge, and no alien could ever predict.